Did you then start working on your essays?
That night.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I'm done. Yeah, move on. Yeah, so it was good.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about that process, the essay writing process?
I found that to be actually more challenging than studying for the GMAT, because studying for the GMAT, I found it to be very kind of finite, and then after you took the test, that's it, and you kind of don't think about it anymore after that. But essays, I think, how many revisions you do, like how good it is, it's up to you to gauge. So I probably wrote like 20 versions of my essays, spent a ton of time on them, had all my close friends read it, and my dad read my essays and gave me feedback, and my friend who's an English teacher did edits with red pen, and that was great. I think the essays are actually, for me, they were a lot harder because it's almost like you have to open yourself up to a group of people that you don't know, and I think it does. If you're doing them right, it makes you a little bit vulnerable because you end up opening up maybe more than you wanted to.
So that, maybe let's talk about that a little bit in terms of, how do you do that? Like, what was your process of putting your experiences, your personal thoughts on paper?
Well, I think when you start out, you just kind of keep writing and don't worry about word count or anything. I think it's also good to look at who you are and what you've done in your life and kind of place the different parts of you in different buckets and make sure that all of those things are covered in some way in your application. So I think if you take a step back and just look at the multi-dimensional you, just making sure that you're really covering each of those areas. And then in terms of writing, I mean, I really took my friends' comments to heart because my real question to them was, is this paper reflecting me? Like, is this two-dimensional thing reflecting a person? And sometimes they were like, no, I need a little more there, or maybe you could start it this way, and just all of those comments were great.
Great. Out of all of the essays that you wrote, is there one that stands out in your mind, either because you felt like you really nailed that, or one that you felt was the most personal, or just something that just stood out to you?
Well, for the Haas essays are pretty different because there are a lot of them, and there are a lot of short answer questions. I actually think, I don't know if one was beyond the rest, but the long essay question I was pretty proud of because it was really hard, and I think 1,000 words gives you leeway to kind of play around with it. I mean, you could talk in depth about one thing. I chose to actually structure it in a different way by reflecting on 3 or 4 experiences I had, kind of what I thought the major issue or problem was, how I would want to change it, and then how business school would help me do that. And then I kind of did that in 3 or 4 examples and then brought it all together into kind of an ultimate goal. That essay, I think, that one went through the most edits because it was just a lot of information, but you kind of have to keep it interesting all the time. So I guess that one was the hardest one.
Yeah. So this was the one, the short-term, long-term goals, and also reflecting back on how your experiences fit with Haas and those goals.
Right. This is the everything essay.
Yeah.
This is what do you want to do with your life?
Yep.
How is Haas going to get you there?
Yep.
Why an MBA? Who are you? Yeah, it's the long essay.
Yeah. Okay. And now, thinking about the entire application process and now reflecting on that, are there any other bits or tips that you would like to share with people applying right now?
I think, so one tip would be to have as many people as possible read your essays.
Mm-hmm.
People that you trust, and people who know you well.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a trend right now of kind of hiring a consultant, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about that because I had my best friend read it and my boss read it. I know so somebody that knows your work is helpful too, but really someone who knows you.
Mm-hmm.
So have as many people as possible read your essays. The other tip is that you are your own worst critic and use that to your advantage. You can kind of lay out all the pieces of your application, and if you can identify a gap, that's the part that you need to build up in your application, because you need to have every area be strong. You have to have your quant area be strong, your writing be strong, creativity be strong. So if you already can self-diagnose that there's a gap, it's pretty much guaranteed that the admissions committee will see that too. So I think understanding that and understanding how to kind of fill that gap is really important.
Great. I like the part about being authentic, right? Being able to have people critique your work so that and give you feedback to make sure it's reflective of who you actually are. It is easy to get caught into I'm writing for the purpose of getting into business school, not writing or creating an application to reflect who I am.
Right.
And I think admissions committees really can recognize when you're being authentic or when you're trying to position yourself in a certain light. So
yeah, they can see right through you.
Yeah. Great. So maybe we'll move forward to your experience here at Haas.
Okay.
So it's now December 2009, and you graduate in May 2010, so there's just a little bit more than a semester left. Can you talk a little bit about your experience thus far and sort of the activities that you've been involved in, and including the internship that you had over the summer?
Sure. So the big two activities that I've been involved in at Haas have been being a Haas student ambassador. So I am a walking advertisement for Haas. No, it's truly because I do love it here. I think it's an awesome school, and I'm determined to tell people that. So as an HSA, we talk to all of the applicants and prospectives interested in the school. The other role I've been really involved in is I'm the president of Women in Leadership, which has been a wonderful experience. We have a big conference every March, and we do professional and social events throughout the year. So that's been a big part of my time at Haas as well. Over the summer, I was at Apple working in marketing on the iPhone, which was a really interesting transition because I was doing marketing for an arts nonprofit in my previous life. So I learned a ton over the summer. I had a great time. And I think were it not for Haas, I definitely wouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
So,
you're a great example of somebody who went from one industry to a completely different industry and worked on a product and an internship that I think a lot of people out there would die to have over the summer. So
I feel extremely lucky.
yeah.